I'm Ryan, a teacher from Leiths, and in this skills video I'm going to show you how to prepare and cook a rump of lamb, including the scoring and rendering of the fat, and then cooking the meat to medium. To cook the lamb, you need to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. The first thing we're going to do is to score the lamb rump. This is going to allow the fat to evenly render out. We're going to score with a distance of about ½ centimetre in between each line, and then we're going to go one way and then followed by cross-hatching the other way as well. It's important to make sure that when you do this, you're using a sharp knife and you're just going through the fat but not into the flesh. So I'm just using the tip of a sharp, small utility knife to do this. I'm now going to turn it around. I'm going to do exactly the same, scoring the other way. And it creates this lovely cross-hatch pattern. It's also important to note that scoring the fat when it's still really firm and fridge cold will make it easier for you to achieve. You can see that I've scored through the fat and down to the meat, but have not gone into and opened up the meat itself. I have got my lamb rump that has been tempering, scored and ready to render. I have got a small frying pan. If we use a big frying pan, there'll be too much surface area and it's likely to get too hot. I've got a pair of tongs just to be able to turn the lamb safely, and then a bowl to drain off the excess fat that we render out from the lamb. I'm starting to very gently preheat my pan. I am going to go with a very, very small amount of oil just to help it get going, and then we will start to drain the fat out as it renders. Before I start the rendering process, I'm just going to season the lamb over the fat and all the surface area of the meat. And I'm going to place it skin side down into the center of the pan. As the pan heats up, it's going to start to gently and slowly render and melt that fat out. The idea is we get a fat that is nice and golden and crisp. I'm going to show you various stages along the way so you know what to look for. It's now been 2 to 3 minutes of rendering time. And as you can see, we're starting to get a very gentle, light golden brown color. And you can see that the fat is starting to melt away. So in order to encourage more to melt out, we're just going to tip out that excess and then continue with the rendering process. Sometimes pushing down in the center of the meat will just ensure that all of the surface area across the middle of the rump is in contact with the pan. We're now going to have another check of the lamb. It's been about 5 minutes of rendering time. So it's starting to take on a little bit more golden color, and it's just adjusting it in the pan to try and get it to evenly color and render. I'm going to tip off some more fat so you can see how much is starting to melt out. You'll also notice that I'm keeping it on a pretty gentle, consistent sizzle. If you go too high on the heat, we're going to scorch the fat. It's going to go too dark before the fat has fully rendered out. I'm going to continue the rendering process for another 4 to 5 minutes just to make sure that the fat has fully melted out, it's golden and it's crisp. It's now been 10 minutes of rendering time, and you can see we've got a lovely even golden color to the fat. I'm going to pour off a little bit more, leaving a little bit in the pan, and we're now going to turn over onto the flesh side to lightly brown and caramelize the flesh for flavor. The browning should take about 30 seconds a side or so, just to start to get a light color to it. I'm going to add back in a little bit of that extra lamb fat, just to make sure I get a nice, even caramelization to the meat. We can now turn it over and we can do the other 4 sides. I'm going to turn over and do the second longest side. You can see there's some lovely golden colour developing there. Got some lovely caramelization there now, so we're going to turn over onto the 2 shorter sides. And then onto the last side to colour. Now that all of the flesh sides are lightly caramelized, we're going to transfer to a baking tray. And this is going to go into the preheated oven for 8 to 10 minutes. It's always best to check slightly earlier, so we will check around the 7 to 8 minute mark. And if we need to, we can always go back in the oven for longer. The lamb has now had about 6.5 to 7 minutes of cooking time, and we're looking for it to be predominantly firm when squeezing it, but we want a little bit of give, and that should give us the indication that it's at medium doneness. So I'm happy that this is mostly firmed up and there's just that little bit of give still. So I'm going to allow this to rest for another 8 minutes to allow the juices to redistribute and the muscle fibers to relax. The resting process will give you a much more tender mouthfeel. The lamb has now rested for 8 minutes. I'm just going to dab away some of the excess fat and moisture from the outside. When carving, it's important to make sure that you go against the grain. So the grain for the lamb is running across this way. It's quite difficult to tell where the lines are on the camera. So we're wanting to go lengthways with the carving. I've also turned it so it's fat side down, because it's going to be easier to get the knife through from the fat side below. So we're wanting to go into nice even slices. So we're probably going to go into 4 slices for this rump. And you can see in the middle that the fibers are set, which is what we want, but it's got a lovely pinkness still. So you can see all of that texture, all the fibers, but that lovely pink juiciness. So it's the medium doneness that we're looking for. When placing the lamb on the plate, we're wanting to do it so the fat side is facing upwards. So you can see that lovely golden crust on the top. In this recipe, I've shown you how to prepare and score the lamb rump. We've gone through the rendering process, which took about 8 to 10 minutes. We also then went through the cooking process, which took about 8 to 10 minutes as well, looking for that medium pink doneness. The resting process took about 8 minutes, and that was to redistribute those juices and tenderize the mouthfeel.